Okay, my name is David Fass. I'm the trainer at iNetsoft, and today is the latest installment of our training webinar series, which is designed to give you a brief and focused view of different features of the product. Today's topic is creating custom maps. Okay, so before we get started with this, let's just take a look at the basic built-in map creation feature, because you can create a default map when you're designing reports or designing dashboards. So we'll take a quick look at that, and then we'll see what the limitations of that are and why you might want to make a custom map, and then how you can go about doing that. All right, so the picture that I'm showing you here is the example that we're going to do in a few minutes, and that's basically we're going to create a map of the United States. Now, obviously, we do have a built-in default US map, but I want to show you the principle of creating one from scratch in the event that you need your own map. For example, if you need a map of just California or just some other region, how you would go through those steps to get the map. And then we'll look at how you can aggregate different regions together. In this case, we're going to take this United States map and convert it to a regional map, so that instead of having individual states, we're going to have the 4 census regions: West, Midwest, South, and Northeast. Okay, so before we get to that, let's just take a look at the basic mapping feature. So I have open over here the user portal. So I'm going to open up the user portal. And then I'm going to open up Visual Composer. So here's a Visual Composer, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a dashboard by pressing the new View Sheet button, and I have a worksheet that I prepared for this example called Census Data, which just has some census information for the 50 states, basically. So I'm going to create a new dashboard based on that worksheet. Okay, and I'll add a chart. The way that you create a map is by adding a chart. A map is a type of chart. So I have a chart here. And then what I do is I switch this chart to a type map by pressing the Select Chart Style button, select the map type, press Apply. Okay. And then what I need to do is I need to find the field that I'm going to use as the geographical field. In this case, what I want to use is the state field that I have here. Right? You'll notice that in the data worksheet, there is, in this data block, there's a region column, and there's a state column, and there's an abbreviation column. Right, so what I want to illustrate is the basic approach of creating a map based on states. So what you would do is you would right-click on that field, select Set Geographic, okay, and that changes to a geographical type state. This is an error that pops up sometimes, but doesn't really mean anything. So that changes the state field to of type geographical, and if you want to see exactly what it did, you can right-click and go to Edit Geographic, and you can see that it's using the built-in US map. It's recognized the layer as a state layer, so it's going to try to match up the values in that state field with the map values that are designated at the state layer. And that's all fine and dandy. So what I'll do is I'll just grab that field now and drag it down to the geographic region in the chart binding, and that will create a US map. And then the way that I use this map typically is I would plot some measure on the map. For example, that measure might be federal spending, right? And typically what you would do is you would drag that down to the color region or the shape region or the size region, right? And that would basically then distinguish the different states by coloring them based on the value of that metric. Right, so that's the basic built-in approach to mapping. Now, the limitations of this are that the maps that we provide as default maps in the product are somewhat limited. We provide a US map, we provide a basic world map, and some other maps. They're generally not very detailed. And the reason for that is that we found that generally customers who are doing mapping need maps that are highly specific to their particular application, right? And there's no way that we could include every possible map, for a customer who needs Northern California, another customer needs election voting districts in Florida, and another customer needs regions of Geneva, Switzerland. So there's no way that we could build in all those different maps. So that's where you're going to run up against the limitation of the built-in maps. When you want to do something that's beyond this kind of basic thing, you may find that our built-in maps are not going to be suitable. So the purpose of this little lecture is to show you where you go from here. Okay, so I'm going to close this. And basically what you would do if you need to go beyond the basic built-in mapping feature is you would find the map that you want defined as a shapefile. Right now, you can find maps. There are many websites that serve up maps as shapefiles. There's an example of one here. This is a US government site that has a bunch of different maps, and basically you can download a shapefile of different regions. These maps are of congressional districts in the United States, and there are many other websites that have shapefiles defining different maps. You can create your own shapefiles if you know how to do that, but basically that's where you would start. You would start with a map that's defined as a shapefile. And then what you do is you use a third-party product called OpenJump. Right, so OpenJump is free software you can download. If you do a web search for OpenJump, you'll find the website. And basically what you do is you download that software, and I have it running over here. It looks like this. Right, so this is the OpenJump software. Again, it's free. And basically what you do is you load up the shapefile in OpenJump software, and then you go through a series of steps that converts that shapefile into a map that's usable by our product, right, by the iNetSoft product. And so that's the procedure. Now, before you do that, I just want to point out that you'll need to download and install the OpenJump software, but then you'll notice that I also have an iNetSoft menu up here, and of course that's not there by default when you download and install the OpenJump software. What you'll need to do is you'll need to install our plugin, right? So we offer a plugin for OpenJump, and if you look in our documentation, there's a description of what you need to do to install that plugin. It's fairly simple. You have to download the plugin, which is just a set of files essentially, and then you need to put them into the OpenJump directory in a particular location that it says here, right? And then you restart OpenJump, and then that iNetSoft menu will be present in the OpenJump interface. Okay, so let's get started, and what we're going to do is we're just going to open a shapefile, which happens to be a file of the United States, similar to the built-in map, but this will be one that's defined as a shapefile. So we're going to load up this US map shapefile, and then we're going to go through the set of steps, which are really just laid out right here under the iNetSoft menu, to convert that map into a usable form for our product. So before I do that, I'm going to shut down the server that I have currently running, the iNetSoft server, because I'll need to restart it later anyway. So after I create the map, I will need to restart the server anyway so that it picks up the new map. So I'm going to exit the server at this point, and now I'm just going to do a little bit of work in OpenJump. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to open, right, so I go to File, Open. Again, I'm working in OpenJump here, which is a third-party product, free software, and I find the map that I want, the shapefile that I want. So I have a folder here called Maps, and in this folder are some maps that a colleague of mine downloaded from a website, and you can see that there's a USA map here, so I'm going to go in there, and there's the shapefile, SHP, right? That's the shapefile, so I'm going to open that, right? And that opens that map in OpenJump. Okay, so that's step one. Okay, now step two is to consolidate features right? So you'll notice that if you go under the iNetSoft menu, there's a consolidate features. That's the first step. You can think of all these items as being a set of numbered steps, and you'll basically go through them in order. Consolidate features basically takes regions that have the same label and consolidates them together into a single shape, right? So imagine that you have a state that had two discontiguous regions, right? Those need to be combined together. It doesn't mean that it's going to smush them together. It's not going to physically move them. It's just logically grouping them together. And you have to do that in order to be able to export a map that can be used by our product, right? So you have to consolidate these discontiguous regions. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do. And I just select consolidate features, and it asks me what layer I want to operate on. And this is correct. I want to operate on the states layer. That's the only layer that I have right now. And I want to operate on the ID attribute of state name, so I press OK, right? And then you can see that over here on the left, what it does is it creates a new layer, right? So there's the original map, and now here's a new map called States Consolidated. And you'll notice that each time we do a step in the plugin, we're going to get a new layer here, a new map, right? And so when that happens, what we can do to save working memory is we can delete the old map. I don't need this one anymore, so I can right-click that guy and just select remove selected layers, and now I'm left with this consolidated map. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to take Alaska and Hawaii and inset them, which is the way that you typically see Alaska and Hawaii represented on US maps down here floating in the ocean. So there's actually just a quick way to do that. Again, to the iNetSoft menu, you select Create US Inset. It asks you what layer. Again, there is only one layer, so that's the layer that we're operating on. Press OK, and now you can see that Alaska and Hawaii, come here off the coast of Texas, so to speak, and again we get a new layer, and we can get rid of the old layer. So here's the old layer. Don't need that one anymore, so we remove that. Right, and if I want to bring this full screen, there's a button up here. I can press that globe button. All right, and so this is what I have now, which is a pretty typical representation of the United States. Okay, now the next set of steps that we're going to do before we export this is basically targeted at reducing the size of the map, of the exported map, right? Because there are various things that we can do that will reduce the size. For example, reducing the number of polygons, reducing the number of node points, reducing the precision with which numbers are represented. So all these steps are optional, but generally you will want to do them because file size can become an issue with some of these maps that have very complex boundaries and so on. So the first thing I'm going to do is reduce the number of polygons, and the procedure here is you go to the iNetSoft menu, you go to Area Histogram, and Area Histogram, it doesn't do anything. It's just going to give you a report of basically how you can threshold the removal of polygons. So what I'll do here is select Area Histogram, and it asks me for some specifications, minimum, maximum, interval. I'll just leave these as the defaults. The documentation describes in a bit more detail what these options do. And then if I press OK, nothing happens to the map, but you'll notice that up here in the toolbar, there's a blinking button, and that will open this output window. And basically what the output window is showing me is the percentage of polygons that I can remove by choosing different thresholds. Right, so for example, if I were to choose a threshold of 6.49, that would effectively remove 70% of the polygons in the map. Okay, so with this step, as with the subsequent steps that we're going to do, there's no absolute right answer to where you choose to threshold. Really, it's going to be based on the result, right? So you can make an attempt at picking a value, and when you look at the result, you can see, is the map still have its integrity, or did things get distorted? Did the boundaries get distorted? Did the shapes get distorted? If you're seeing too much distortion, then obviously you would back off on the number, right? So that you're removing fewer polygons. Right, so this is an optimization step, and you'll probably want to try it a few times to try to get the right value for a particular map. In this case, I'm going to choose something around 0.02. That would fall somewhere around over here. So 0.02, I'd be removing about 40% of the polygons from this map. Right? And I've tried that before, and I saw that that works, so I'm not going to waste anybody's time trying a bunch of different values. I'll just go ahead and do that, and I go to the initsoft menu again, go to remove small polygons, and I'm going to enter the value that I already found to work pretty well for this map. Right? Just enter 0.02, press OK. Right? And now we get another layer. Right? You can see that this one has areas removed. So I'll again remove the preceding layer that I no longer need, and now I've got this layer. And you can see that fundamentally there have been no real distortions of the map, so that value seemed to preserve the map okay. And of course, what you might want to do in that case is see if you can push the limit a little bit more, maybe remove a few more polygons, maybe try a larger threshold value, and maybe you can still have a a usable map with even fewer polygons, and that would be better for memory. But I'll leave it like this for now. The next step of optimization is reducing precision. So what you do is you go to the initsoft menu, and the next step here is find precision, and this just tells you, again, you have to select which layer you want to investigate. So there is only one layer again. Press OK. And again, the blinking button here tells us to open the output window. And this is just telling us that currently the values of the points that define the boundaries of the states are saved with 14 decimal places. Right? And again, you can save some memory by reducing that. There's probably not much reason to save numbers with 14 decimal places in this context. So what I'll do is I'll go to the initsoft menu and go to this option, the next one, the next step, node lines and polygons, select that, and I'll change the precision. I'll just leave it as the default here of 6. So basically, I'm going from 14 decimal places to 6 decimal places, which should certainly still be adequate. So I'll press OK. It does that, and it gives me a new layer, of course. Every time I do one of these operations, I get a new layer, and I remove the old layer. You don't have to remove the old layers, incidentally. This is just for saving working memory. If memory is tight on your machine, it's a good practice to do that. Okay, and then there's one more step to do here, and that is the point threshold. And this is similar to removing the polygons, but here the issue is, can I remove a certain number of points? So you'll notice that each state is, the border is defined by a certain number of points. The question is, can I reduce the number of points that I need to define the boundaries of the state, right? And that's basically what the point removal part of the plugin does. So we go up to the initsoft menu again, and I'm going to go to the point threshold histogram, which similar to the area removal histogram, it doesn't do anything. It's just going to give us a report. And again, you can select the layer. You select an algorithm. This is basically an algorithm that determines how many points to use for different different regions of curvature and so on, and some parameters you can set. Again, you can check the documentation for the details. I'll press OK. Okay, it does some stuff in the background, and if I go to the output window again, it gives me this histogram, which is similar the way that you interpret it to the area histogram. It's basically saying that if you choose a number, one of these numbers here, you can remove the corresponding percentage of points on the boundary. Right, so for example, if I choose 0.006 as the parameter, that would end up removing 80% of the boundary points. And here again, there's no right answer to this. You will probably want to try it for your particular map and see which value produces the correct result. Obviously, if you use too large a value at a certain point, you will be distorting the shapes of the regions. Right, if you if you try to represent a state with just 2 points, you can't do it. So there is there's a clear point at which you've gone too far, but the rest of it is really just a judgment and seeing whether a given value gives you an acceptable result. So in this case, like before, I tried it earlier, and I found that a value of 0.01, which is I guess somewhere around here, worked reasonably well. So that would remove somewhere around between 80 and 90% of the points. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. And I'll go back up to the initsoft menu, go to simplify lines and polygons, and I'll enter here a threshold of 0.01. Okay, so that's what I've done. Press OK. Okay, and now it simplifies this and it gives me another layer, so I'll remove the old layer. And now I have my my final result. So this is you can see that the states are using fewer points. And again, you'll have to test at this point. You may want to zoom in. There's a set of zooming tools here. You might want to zoom in on a few different regions, see whether the boundaries have become corrupted as the result of removing too many points, or whether it's still good enough for your application. Obviously, if you're going to be working with a full United States map, and plotting some metric on a full U.S. map, you probably don't need incredible, incredible precision in the boundaries of the states. Somebody's just going to be looking at the entirety of the United States. They don't care that, a particular state wiggles this way or that way, at a particular point. Okay, anyway, in this example, we'll go with this, and this is basically the result that we want to export. So basically what we've done is we've gone through a series of steps to reduce the size of the file that we're going to create, including removing polygons, reducing precision, and removing points on boundaries. And now we're ready to export this, and then we can test it. So the next thing we do is we go to the last step in the iNetSoft menu, which is export layer. Now you'll notice that it's not enabled currently, and that's because I have to click on the layer to select it. Right, so I'm going to click on the layer here, then go back up to the iNetSoft menu and select Export Layer. And the first thing I need to do is I need to specify a file where this is going to be saved. So I click Browse, and what I need to do is I'll browse to the classes directory of my Style Intelligence installation. Right, so here's my installation, which is called in my case Style Intelligence 12 Group. Right, and under there's a server folder, web apps folder, SREE folder, web-inf folder, and a classes folder. And that's where I'm going to save this. Right, so you'll navigate to that location, and the name of the file has to be mapdata.xml. Right, so you don't have liberty to name this file whatever you want. It has to be actually what it says here, mapdata.xml. So I'll call it that. Okay, mapdata.xml, press save. Right, so there's the file name and location. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to name the map, and I'll call this map My USA, right, to distinguish it from our built-in USA map. So just give it that. In general, you should not give your maps the same name as the built-in maps. So if one of the built-in maps is called Mexico, and you're creating your own Mexico map, you should not call your own Mexico map Mexico if that's identical with one of the built-in maps. So use a name that's different than one of the built-in names. And then I'm going to give the layer a name, and I'll call this My State. Okay. So this layer, these obviously are states. And the reason that I'm giving this, this layer a name like this is that I intend to add another layer later on. I'm going to add a region layer as well. So this one will be the state layer. It will allow me to plot a metric based on different states. And then later on, I'll create another layer in the same map that will allow me to plot a metric based on different regions. Okay, the feature ID and display name, I'm just going to leave those as is. This needs to be the field that you originally consolidated the map on. Remember the first step that we did, we went up to the iNetSoft menu, selected consolidate, and it asked us to choose a field on which to consolidate. We chose the state name field there, and so we need to use the state name field here as well for the feature ID. We can add an alternate name here. In this case, I'll add state abbreviation as an alternate, and that will just help when later on when it tries to match up the data with values on the map, it can use either the state name or the state abbreviation. The other options down here relate to label placement, and I'm not going to discuss those now. The documentation does say a little bit about them. And then what I'll do is I'll just press OK, and that map gets exported. Right? So this US map is now exported, and I should be able to use it in any dashboard or any report. So let's go ahead and see if in fact that's the case. So I'm going to restart my iNetSoft server. Okay, as I mentioned before, in order for the server to pick up this new user-defined map, you have to restart it. Okay, so I've restarted the server. Okay, logging in. Okay, and I'll open Visual Composer, and I'll go ahead and run through the steps that I did before with the built-in map. So let me find the census data. Okay, again, I'll add a chart. Okay, switch it to a map type chart. And then again, like I did before, I'm going to use the state field here. Right, this is the state field in the worksheet. So I'm going to do set geographic. Okay, and it does that. But now let's go ahead and see what it did. If I look in there, if I select that and go to Edit Geographic, you can see that it is using the map that we created, right? So now it's using the map called My USA, and it's using the layer called My State, and it was able to successfully match up all the values in the state field here with the states that exist in that map. Right, so now you can see that if you open this list, in addition to all the built-in maps, right, you could still use any of the built-in maps, but now there is also this custom map that we created, right? And then you can go ahead and use it just the same way that you would use any of the built-in maps, right? So I press apply, and then I can put that in the geographic region and proceed with, however I want to build this map. The only difference now from before is that that this map is not a built-in map. This is a custom map that we created from a shapefile, right? And hopefully the steps that we went through to get here, you can apply to any other shapefile, right? So if you have a shapefile of Florida, if that's your interest, then you can load in that shapefile, go through the set of steps that we described, and then in the end produce a map just of Florida, and likewise for any other geographical region. Now you can do maps that even go beyond actual geography. You could create, if you had a shapefile of, let's say, a warehouse floor plan, right? You could load that shapefile in OpenJump and run through the same set of steps, right? It would be just a set of polygons, just like this is, except that it would be the floor plan of a warehouse, and you would do consolidation and reducing precision and reducing points on the boundaries, all the steps that we ran through, and export it. And then what you could do is you could use that map in here as well in a dashboard or in a report and plot some measure on the basis of areas of the warehouse floor plan. So you're not restricted just to doing true geography this way. Really, anything that you can represent as a shapefile, you can run through that set of steps that I just showed you in OpenJump to produce an export that can be used in a dashboard or a report. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to look at a variation on this, and the variation is going to be to consolidate or rather combine some of these states into regions. Right, so let's say that in addition, going back here to the dashboard, in addition to doing this kind of thing and plotting some measure on a state-by-state basis, I also want to be able to plot a measure on a region-by-region basis. Now, there is no built-in map that gives you regions of the United States. All we have is just the states. So that is something that you would have to create custom, and we can do that based on what we've done so far in OpenJump with this map. Basically what we can do is we can combine different regions on this map and then create another export that will give us a region map that we can use. So again, I'm going to close this and stop the server. Right, because again, I'll need to restart the server anyway to be able to read the new map data. And I'm going to return to OpenJump and then define some regions here. So the way that you do this is you go up here, there's a button called View/Edit Attributes. Right, so I'm going to open that, and that basically opens the table that displays all of the different regions that you have. And the next thing I want to do is right-click on that table and select Editable. And this will allow me to edit the map and combine sets of regions into a unified region. Right, so I'll select the Editable option here, right, and that makes the map editable. It opens this little tool palette here, which I don't really need to use for this example. And obviously, there's a lot of things you can do here that go far beyond what I plan to cover. But I'm going to go back to the map here, and now that I've made the map editable, I can select regions and combine them together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to define these regions based on the US Census regions, which are, as I mentioned before, West, Midwest, South, and Northeast. And I have a little reference in front of me so I can try to get this right. So these should be the ones that I've just selected. I just dragged across them. So that's an easy way to select all the Western states. So these are the states that are called West. Okay, so what I'll do is, having selected them all, right-click and then choose Combine Selected Features. Right? And so what you'll notice now is that if I click on any of those states, it selects all of them because those have all been combined into a single feature called, which I will name as West later on. Okay, let's take care of the Midwest, the Midwest states. Now this one is a little bit trickier. Let's see if I can. Let's see what I'm missing here. Arkansas is not in there. West Virginia, I think I might have gotten it. There's Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is not in there. So I think that's it. I think those are the Midwest states. So I'll right-click and do Combine Selected Features there. Hope you'll forgive me if I got if I left out a state, if I left out your state. Anyway, you'll get the idea. And then let's take care of the Northeast states. So that should be something like this. I think that's about it. I think New Jersey is the furthest south. So I'm going to, oh, I think I missed one. Did I miss? No, I didn't. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so combine these ones. Okay, so those are the Northeast states. And then the remaining states are these guys down here. Try to make sure I get all of them. I'm just shift clicking to add in these other ones. Pennsylvania is already part of there. Okay, I think I got them all. Well, you know, an easier way to do it would just be to do something like this, because now I'll be sure that I got them all, right? And then I can just click to deselect the regions that I've already selected. So now I'm sure that I've got all the southern states. So I'm going to right-click and combine selected features. Okay, and now I've got these different regions. Okay, now the next thing that I want to do is I want to name them. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go back over here to this button, the view/edit attributes. Go back over there and then right-click on the table. So you can see the table changed. Now it has just the 4 regions that I've defined. They're each designated by one of the states, kind of a random state in there. So what I'll do is I want to create another column over here that gives me the region name. So you right-click on the table, select view/edit schema, right, and then I can create a new column here. I'll call it region, and it has type string. Press apply changes. Okay, and so you can see now I've got this region column here, and I'm just going to name the regions. You'll see that if you click on it, it shows you the regions. So this one is West, that one is Midwest, that one is Northeast, and that one is South. Okay, so now I've defined these regions. I can close this. Now, there's one thing that I want to show you, and that is if we go back in here to the view/edit attributes, there's a little symbol here. And this symbol, when it looks like this, will create problems for the export, because basically it means that not everything has been consolidated. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that everything in this map is represented as a so-called multi-polygon, because that's what our software can process, right? So if I were to proceed with the export like this, I would get an error that says something to the effect that everything needs to be represented as a multi-polygon. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select everything on the map, and then I'm going to go to Tools and Edit Geometry, and Edit Geometry, Convert Selected Geometry Layers to, and select Multi-Polygon, right? And the reason I'm doing this is just to head off that error, which I know I will get if I don't do this, right? So if you see that error that says something related to data needs to be multi-polygon, right? This is what you need to do, convert to multi-polygon. There's no perceptible difference, but now we should be able to do the export without a problem. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's try the export. I'm going to go back to the iNetSoft menu. I don't need to go through all these steps again. I'm just going to go to export layer. And I want to export this map into the same map file that I used previously. So I'm going to click Browse. There's that mapdata.xml file that we created previously. So I'll press Save, right? So it's going to save it into that same file. Right, the map type, I'm going to keep that the same. I want basically both layers, both the state layer and region layer, to be part of the same map. So I'll just rename this region layer as my region. Again, the reason that I'm calling these my is just to be certain that I'm not using the identical names to any of the built-in maps. Obviously, you can probably think of better names than that. And the feature ID for exporting the regions is going to be region. Right, there is no alternate name, it's just the region for both feature ID and display name. I'll ignore the label coordinates again, but press OK. Right, and now that should export this region level map into the same mapdata.xml file. Okay, so let's take a look at it in Visual Composer. So I'll restart the server. And open Visual Composer again. Create a new view sheet, again, based on this sample census data. And what I want to illustrate now is that, add a chart. What I want to illustrate is that now I have available a region map that I can use. So I'm going to, again, this is the region column in the data worksheet. Right? This is not the map, this is just the field that's in the data worksheet. But now what I can do is I can set that as a geographic field. Right? And if I right click on that and go to edit geographic, right, you can see that it's using now for the region, it's using our custom map that we created, and it's using the my region layer that we created and that we exported into that map. Right? And you can see the green check mark means that it's correctly matching up the values in the region field from the data worksheet against the regions that are defined in that map. Right? So now I can go ahead and I can use that. I can convert this chart to type map, and I can use this region as a geographical field. Right, so there's the United States, different regions, right? And then I can display a measure broken out by those regions, just like I would do and did for the state-based map. I can do the same thing for the region-based map, and I can take one of these measures and put it in the color area, and right, that will then basically represent the measure, aggregate the measure, and represent that measure on a region by region basis. And of course, there's a lot of formatting that I could do to make this look better. I could, change the formats on the numbers and all that. But the main point that I wanted to illustrate is just how you can go through this procedure of combining features to create maps at different levels of granularity. So you can start with a very dense and detailed map, and based on that map, you can combine different regions together to define coarser and coarser maps. Okay, and so now within a single dashboard, within a single report, we can use a region map, and we can also create a, if we want to, in the same dashboard, we can use the same map to display the measure at the state level, right? So I can create a second map, and I can convert the state field to geographic. And again, I'll just double check to make sure it's using the right map. Right, so my USA, my state, it's using our custom map, and I can create a map based on the breakout by state. So that's those are the basics of what I wanted to show, how you can go through a set of steps in this OpenJump software to import a shapefile and export a map that's usable in our software, and then how you can go through a few more steps to combine regions together so that you get a different level of granularity of the essentially the same map. Okay, so those are the main topics that I wanted to hit. The last thing that I wanted to show you is that you can actually import multiple maps into OpenJump. So let's say that you wanted to create a map of Canada, the US, and Mexico, right? So of course you may be able to find such a map on some website. A website might actually have a map of Canada, the US, and Mexico. It's not out of the question that you'd be able to find that, but you can also build a map like that yourself. So let me get rid of this and just start over and just show you how we can do that. So what I'll do is, just like we did to begin with, I'll import the US map, right? So there it is. Oops. What happened? You know what? Let me restart this project. Okay. Start this over. Okay. Okay, that's what I expected to see. All right, so there's the original US map that we started with, and then what I can do is I can just open another map. So I'll do open, and I have also a Canada map. So I'll find my Canada map. There are different levels of granularity. This particular download of the Canada map has different divisions. I think the coarsest division is this one. I think this one divides it into provinces. So I'll select that shapefile. It's a bit of a large file, so it'll take a moment to load. Okay, and there is Canada, and you can see it appears in the correct place with respect to the US. And I could do the same thing for Mexico, so I'll open, and I have a Mexico shapefile, again with different levels of detail. So I'll choose this one, and there is Mexico. Okay, so now I've got Canada, the US, and Mexico all together. And then what I can do is I can select these layers and combine them into a single layer, essentially, right? So right now these are all different layers that I could toggle on and off individually, but if I select those layers and right-click, then there's an option here called Combine Selected Layers, and that creates a new layer. All right, so here's a new layer that basically has all of these guys combined. So you know, each of these regions, the regions from Canada can be individually selected, the regions from the US can be individually selected, and same thing for Mexico. So what I wanted to illustrate here is just that you can do this type of thing, right? So you can build up a map piece by piece. However, in order to be able to export it and use it, there are a couple additional things that you'll want to do. Generally, what you'll want to do is you'll want to go into the edit/view attributes, and you'll want to create a new column in here. So you'll edit the schema like we did before, right? You right-click, and you do View Edit Schema, and you'll want to make a new column that basically contains the names of all the regions at this level of granularity. So a single column that has the names of the provinces of Canada, and the names of the US states, and the names of I guess the states in Mexico. Right, so a single column that has those values. And then once you've done that, then you can export that map, and then you'll want to probably want to do what we did previously and do a regional type map. In other words, select all of Canada and group all that, combine all of those provinces together, group all of the US, combine those states together, and group all the states, select all of the states of Mexico and combine all those states together. So then, and export that also. So then you'll have a map that can be used at two different levels. You'll be able to use it at the individual state/province level, and you'll also be able to use it at the country level, right? So you'll be able to plot your metrics broken out by Canada, US, or Mexico, in addition to individual provinces and states. Okay, so that's just to give you a taste of some of the things that you can do. There are many other things you could do in this OpenJump software. For example, you can actually draw regions. So if you have a shapefile and you want to draw regions on top of that shapefile, you can do that. You can define points on a shapefile. So there are a whole host of things that you can do, and OpenJump has its own documentation that you can look into. But for now, I'll just wrap it up there, and thank you for listening. And if you have questions about doing custom maps, of course, our support team is always eager to hear questions. You can also feel free to email me, david.fass@inetsoft.com, david.fass, F-A-S-S, at inetsoft.com. I'm always happy to hear questions as well, so I'll be looking forward to that. So thanks very much, and have a nice weekend.